so I don't start recording so I don't forget. I don't know why I'm so cold. So we have a big group. We have, last I checked, there's 40 people who are registered. So we'll definitely give it, you know, right up to 8 or a few minutes past 8 before we start. Hi, Jacob.
How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. First Sunday, what time do you want me to show up?
Oh, whenever, I would say 11:30, 11, 11:30.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
I'm trying to figure out what I should make for dinner right now. If anybody has any suggestions.
I mean, in our house, it was mac and cheese if you are under the age of 6.
Is that like, that's like a regular thing, you know?
Yeah. And if you were over the age of 6, you had salmon.
Ooh, I had salmon last night. I made myself like a lemon, like soy sauce thing. It was pretty good.
Yum.
I'm leaning towards fish tacos right now. That's kind of where my head's at.
That sounds delicious. Hi, guys. For those of you who are just joining, so good to see you. We're going to give it a few minutes because we have a lot of people who are signed up, which is awesome. Oh. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. We're going to give it a couple of minutes. We've got a lot of people who are registered, so we want to make sure everybody has a chance to jump on. What's the over under, Neil, that one or both of my children wake up from soundly being asleep to come down to join this Zoom session? Yeah, it's definitely going to happen.
Maggie.
Hey, gals.
This is so exciting. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Hello. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing better now that you're on the Zoom.
Yeah.
That's a Shabbat walk assignment right there.
And it's perfect because it's COVID style Shabbat walk assignment through Zoom.
Yeah, I'm all the way in South Carolina, so I'm very socially distant.
Excuse me. Hi, Amy. All right. Why are you pointing to your ears, Amy? Because you're on mute. Hi, for those of you who are just joining, welcome. We're going to give it a couple of minutes. Tons of people are signing on right now. So let's give it a minute while everybody is signing on and getting their computer set up. Awesome. Let's give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Sound good? Awesome. So great to see all of you guys. So great. Thank you, Neil. All right. Neil, Amy, what do you think? Should we get started? I've got us on record, so we should be set and ready to go. So hi, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited to have you all here tonight and excited to be able to share with you our plans for this coming summer. You'll notice that we have a new name that we are using for our Zoom sessions and for future programming that we do. So one of the things that Amy, Neil, and myself and the advisory council have been talking about is, you know, the minute that you are no longer a camper, you become an alumni. And there are so many things that Camp Seneca Lake can offer our alumni. And one of those is opportunities for employment. So future emails that you get from us related to all different types of topics, from interview and resume skills to employment opportunities at Seneca Lake, or perhaps socialization, will be under the name the Young Alumni Resource Network. So when you see that come through your inbox, just make sure you open it because it's about Seneca Lake. There we go. So I want to give you a brief overview of what Amy, Neil, and myself are going to be talking to you about tonight. Neil just put in the chat, if you have questions during the Zoom, feel free to drop them in the chat. You can also unmute yourself at any time and ask questions. We want this to be interactive. I'm getting really tired of hearing myself talk, so the more conversation we can have, the better. So we're going to introduce or reintroduce ourselves depending on who you are if we haven't had a chance to meet you yet. Go a little bit of an overview on the Young Alumni Resource Network and what it is, talk about CSL 2021 and our operating assumptions for the summer, talk about the organizational structure and how to navigate the application process. So briefly, I will introduce myself because I haven't met a lot of you yet. My name is Lori Field, and I am the Associate Executive Director at the JCC and the Director now of Camp Seneca Lake. I attended camp for 13 years as a camper and a counselor. My last summer was in 2004 as the unit head for the CIT program. And camp has always had the biggest place in my heart. Anyone who knew me as a kid growing up would say that I am in my dream job, being able to give back to a place that gave so much to me. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and getting to know you both as alumni and talking to you about employment opportunities for the summer. Neil, do you want to reintroduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Neil Pickus. I am the Assistant Director of Camping at the J. I'll be focusing on programming and staffing for Camp Seneca Lake. This summer will be my 2021 will be my 9th summer. I think I started in 2011 and was at camp every year except for last year in 2019. Yeah, I'm excited to be back. Thanks for having me.
Amy, it's your turn.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm the Assistant Director of Camp Operations. I've been at CSL for 7 summers doing a lot of different things, but now I work in the office and I deal with all the registration and billing and just like all the paper pushing.
Thanks, Amy. So as we get started on our evening tonight, again, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this new concept that we have of the Young Alumni Network Center. So when we think about all of the different things that Seneca Lake has to offer you once you finish your years as being a camper, we broke up the what we're thinking about into 4 categories. One is socialization, and of course that's getting together and hanging out and being able to be social and do fun things together. For now, that's on Zoom, and hopefully in the near future, we'll be in a place where we can all be together again in reunions and visiting each other. Connections to CSL Alum. This is something that we're going to work on building through our alumni database. That's really important to us that we prioritize over the next couple of months. So hopefully this is there for you, for those of you who might be looking at colleges, to say that you're going to go look at a certain college and you want to see if there's any CSL alum that are at that college or graduated from it, all the way up to you are looking to become a lawyer. Let's say you're looking into a certain profession and you want to know if anyone are, oh, sorry, I think that might be better. Okay. To see if you know if there's any CSL alum in the community that you could talk to about a certain profession. We are kicking off tonight again. This is our 2nd session of alumni employment opportunities and career development. Some of you attended a session with Alan Freeman on interview and resume skills, and we're hoping to continue to build that out, that it isn't just about Camp Seneca Lake, but helping you in your profession and following your path and your passions as you continue to go through all of your different stages in life. And then last but not least is Tikkun Olam and Tzedakah. And Neil, I don't know if you want to talk just for a quick second about Giving Tuesday and what your new committee is doing.
Yeah, so we formed a subcommittee of the advisory council of about 10 to 15 young alumni, many of whom were Tusk unit heads in the past. And our goal is to get a lot of new first-time and infrequent donors to get involved and engage with camp on December 1st, which is Giving Tuesday. Falls after Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday and then Giving Tuesday. So you'll be hearing a lot from us in the next month or so about ways to get involved with your pocketbook or with your wallet with camp.
Thanks, Neil. So again, if you've got ideas, things that you think that we could do that would be helpful, ways that you want to get involved, please shoot Amy, Neil, or myself, or all of us an email. We would love your creative energy and your ideas. So let's start talking about camp this summer. And for some of you, you have heard this. And so I apologize, this is a repeat, but it's really important that we share this beginning information with you. So thank you in advance for your patience. So a couple of weeks ago, the American Camping Association released data that suggests that we should be able to open camps as long as we are following multiple strategies that include masks and cohorts and social distancing and frequent hand washing and enhanced sanitations. So while we're expecting additional insights over the next couple of weeks to be able to understand how we can best prepare, we're beginning our concrete plans for summer 2021. With that said, most of our concrete specific strategies are still in development and are subject to change. So the reason that I bring this up is a lot of camps, a lot of other overnight camps haven't even opened registration yet. And some of the camps are saying that, you know, they really don't want to open registration until they have a better understanding of what the rules and the regulations are going to be. And we really felt strongly that for our community, we wanted to get started, which means that we're going to have to ask, we are asking for flexibility and understanding from our community. That means from our campers and our families and from our prospective staff, because things may change. We may think that we are doing one thing, and at some point in time, we may have to pivot to a different plan. And so just know that we're working really hard to think about what those things are. As we've done all of this thinking and planning and digging into what this summer could look like, for me, something that was really important was continuing to come back to our mission. And for many of you, you may know our mission. And for some of you, this may be the first time that you've seen it. But I want you to take a minute to read this. I'm going to also read it out loud. And I ask that you keep this in the forefront of your heart and your mind as we talk about camp this summer. And how when you hear things that might be different from what we're used to in the past, that you remember why camp exists and why we do what we do. So the mission of Camp Seneca Lake is to provide a fun, adventurous program with immersive experiential learning that builds Jewish identity, facilitates personal exploration, cultivates an appreciation of nature, and establishes the importance of Jewish community. So with that said, we had to, when we looked at this coming summer, we had to look at 4 big buckets, 4 big things in order to be able to think about opening camp. We had to look at a camp reimagined experience. We had to look at shifting dates. We had to look at our occupancy, and we had to look at public health measures. So our goal for tonight is not only to tell you about opportunities to apply for camp, but also to have you aware of what our thoughts and plans are for how we're going to be able to operate this summer. It's most important that you know that our intention is to open camp, but we have to receive approval from New York State and from Yates County to operate. So we're proceeding as though we have it. We're pretending like we have it, and that at some point we're going to hear some specific guidelines. Our fingers and toes are crossed that that's not going to change, but we need to be prepared for the possibility of anything happening. So this summer, with the things that I talked about on the previous slide, we knew that we needed to make some changes for our camp, for Camp Seneca Lake for this summer. So this summer, during any given session, we can accommodate 158 campers at camp. So you guys know we usually have somewhere between 200 to 250 campers. And in order for us to accommodate allowing every camper to be able to have some sort of experience at camp, we had to reimagine what our sessions look like. So if we stuck with our model of two 3.5 week sessions with 158 campers in each session, camp would literally be a lottery system, and we would have to turn people away. And Amy, Neil, and I could not imagine a scenario in which getting into camp was a lottery. So we had to dig deep and think creatively about figuring out that if you can't be at camp for the entire summer or the whole session that you wanted to, is it enough to be able to get a little taste of it until we get back to normalcy? And we've had registration open since Sunday, and the response has been really positive, and people are signing up and are really understanding and supportive of the changes that we've made. We know that there's going to be out-of-state travel guidelines. We just don't know what they're going to be. We know that New York State recently changed the guidelines, and as soon as we get comfortable with these new guidelines, they're going to change again. And so we're here to let you know that you have our support and that we're going to work together with you, that if you're coming from out of state, as we get closer to camp, to understand what those guidelines are. We talked about the capacity modifications. We know we're going to have to wear masks, right? We haven't heard that there's a scenario in which masks are going away anytime soon, although I really hope that they are. What that looks like, what the rules are for wearing the masks, we're not so sure yet. We're gonna get that guidance again from the Department of Health and the CDC and all of our camping partners. We know that cohorts is going to be a part of our camp experience. The definition of how we define cohort is loose in our mind right now, and we're playing with a couple of different scenarios of what that could mean. But again, we have to wait until we get that guidance to really have a better understanding and be able to put pen to paper in terms of how that affects our programming. We are not going to be offering busing this summer to and from camp. We've asked our families to be responsible to bring their campers to and from camp. And overall, we've had a really positive response. As you know, we fill those buses to capacity with campers. And in light of COVID, we would only be able to have one kid per seat. And that would just mean so many more buses. And that would really be really difficult on the camp financially. Travel outside of camp will be limited. So we've canceled for right now. We've suspended our overnight trips. We've suspended our Tusk trip. We know that this has a huge impact on our program, especially for Tusk. And so we're really going to lean on you guys, on our prospective staff, and then who become our staff, to help us think creatively about how we can give our campers a really amazing summer. As of right now, the other thing that we have planned for is that we don't think that we can use platform tents for campers, for camper living. So the way that Neil and JVH measured the tent platforms, you cannot put more than one bed in a tent and be able to maintain 6 feet of distance. So for right now, we are planning on having, if that rule is still in effect when we open camp, Tusk will live in Mohawk, Seneca will live in Seneca, Mohawk will live in Cayuga, and Cayuga and Onondaga will actually share the village of Onondaga, and they will be in separate, obviously in separate cabins. So the boys in their own cabins and girls in their own cabins, but share the same village. Again, we know that that's a change in terms of our culture and that spirit of having your own village, but we also know that we don't want housing to be a reason why we can't operate camp this summer. We are working really closely with the Department of Health, with our Department of Health assessor, who's aware of our limitations because of how much we rely on platform tent housing. And she's going to help us try to be creative, but it might be out of our control. So I'm going to hand it off now to Neil, who's going to talk a little bit about what our summer schedule looks like.
Yeah, so thank you, Lori. The summer schedule looks very similar to what it's looked like in the past, save for the division of each of the sessions. So starting here in May, we have Mitzvah Day, which will be an opportunity for people to, for alumni and families to come to camp and help out. I see Ben Fuhrer here. I think Ben came to like a Mitzvah Day this year and raked all of Mohawk by himself. Yes. So there'll be a lot of opportunities for things like that to happen. And Mitzvah Day is going to help us get prepared for work week. So essentially all of camp is closed entirely. Like boats are in the OREC, and like those like green skids that we use at the waterfront, those are all like up on the beach. Camp is like totally closed even on Mitzvah Day. So they're going to help us get prepared for work week, which will start at the end of May. It'll be about a week. We're going to have a crew of 10 or so people helping to set up tents and move boats and open everything up, do a lot of cleaning, a lot of like getting rid of mice and squirrels and all the things that they burrow away for the winter. And then on Sunday, the 6th is open house. There'll be an opportunity for new and young families to come and check out camp, see where things are at. And then following that will be specialty certification training. And on here, we have it the week of the 7th through the 11th of June. It'll likely spill over into the next week and through that weekend as well. But that'll be for anybody who is working as a specialist or a program area leader and need some sort of special training, like motorboat certification or getting belay certified at the ropes course. Lifeguard certifications will take place during that time as well. And then starting on Wednesday the 16th, that's our senior staff orientation. That's for anybody who's a unit head or a program area leader and some of the other positions around camp that we'll talk about in a moment. And then this is the big one here on June 20th. That's when we start general staff orientation. And that'll run for a week, and it'll run right into the beginning of session 1 on June 28th. It's not on here, but the CITs, which we can talk more about later, the CITs are going to come to camp, I believe on Sunday the 27th for like a day or like a 3/4 of a day long training to get ready for the campers coming. And then from June 28th through August 18th, we have 4 sessions, 3 2-week sessions and 1 1-week session. There will be about 36 hours in between each session when camp is empty so that we can sanitize and clean everything as the Department of Health and American Camping Association have recommended that we do. And there will be, think of that like intersession. Instead of being like 3 days in a row, it'll be split up throughout or in between all of the sessions. And then we actually have 2 family camp weekends. The first one is the 19th through the 22nd, and the second one is the 2nd through the 5th of September. That's a change from what we've done in the past. Historically, we've had 1 family camp weekend. This year, we're going to have 2. And in between the 2 family camps is Education Success Foundation. They're a local nonprofit organization that supports families in sort of everything that they need to function as a family unit, whether that's helping to provide clothing or food or getting the kids an opportunity to be successful at their schooling. And that starts at the family level. That's not just like giving a math tutor to the kids. That's doing workshops and activities with the family unit as a whole to help make them stronger so that the children have a better opportunity at doing well at school. How's that, Lori?
Awesome. Great job. Thank you so much. So we are going to flow into the org structure for the summer. So before I put it on the screen, I just want us to take a few minutes to talk about tradition and history and change. So for some of you, the org structure is going to look different than it has in the past. And I think it's important to know that in all of the different years that Seneca Lake has existed, our org structure and the positions have changed and ebbed and flowed in so many different ways. So my experiences when I was a camper and when I was a counselor, there are some things that were the same as when you were a camper and now that you're a counselor, and some things that are totally different. So the plan that we put together has some of the cores of the things that are the same, but also keeps in mind the fact that our camp is going to be at a reduced capacity, and that kids are going to be rotating through 2-week sessions. So they do have the opportunity to stay, and there's an intersession camp out program that we're going to do for a limited amount of kids. But the need to program for 3.5 weeks for campers looks a little bit different in terms of the staff that's required than 2-week programs. So keep that in mind as we go through this, and again, keep your heart open as we talk. So can you guys see this okay? Someone give me a thumbs up. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we've got a lot of slides to go over with you, and I'm not going to talk about this. This is the general big organizational structure. We're going to actually break it down by each kind of mini department, if you will. And Neil or Amy or myself will be talking about it depending on which one of us is the direct supervisor. And Neil will be playing the role of JVH tonight, talking about his department. So Neil, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Great. So this slide here talks all about the village staff, essentially. You can see here that we have only 4 unit head positions. That's because we combined Onondaga and Cayuga. So the way we're envisioning that, there'll be 1 unit head and an AUH that sort of maybe swap back and forth depending on the numbers of Cayugans and the numbers of Onondagans in the village. This thing here that's new is the assistant counselor line, and that's you can see that juts off of Seneca, Mohawk, and the younger villages there. And the idea with separating counselors and assistant counselors is that our expectations of an assistant counselor are going to be a little bit different than they are of a counselor. And both of those expectations will be different than they are for a counselor in training. The CIT, formerly known as a Hakshara or an LIT, and then before that a CIT, they're paid participants, and the Department of Health views them as campers, and as such, we're not going to be relying on CITs for direct supervision of kids at any point. The CITs are going to be learning and training with the staff, but will not be considered staff. That's a little bit of a change. Now, the assistant counselors, their role is specifically to support the counselor. And sometimes that will look like the cabin or the bunk just has 2 counselors. And sometimes it'll look like there's someone that has a little bit more responsibility and a little bit more understanding of how camp works and how camper care works and how village life works. And the goal for the assistant counselor is to similarly to a CIT, but more similarly to a first year staff member, to learn and to train with the counselor who potentially has a little bit more experience and a little bit more wherewithal of how the village should function. That being said, they're both paid staff members, so there's not a huge difference, but we wanted to designate the assistant counselor as like the first time staff member at camp, someone who perhaps didn't go through CSL's training program or did, and now it's their first time working at camp. And what's really interesting here is that save for like 10 people, nobody worked at camp in 2020. So anybody that comes to work at camp in 2021, it'll be they may have worked at camp before, but it'll be almost 2 full years since they've done that. So this really sets us up for success in that we can sort of divide responsibilities and lean into people's strengths and support them in their challenges. Yeah, so I think, and then we have like CIT directors here also, which will be sort of on the same level as unit heads. I think we can go to the next one, Lori. Okay, so here's our programming department. In recent years, programming has had 15 to 20 different people working in it. It encompassed media and operations and all of the things that we think of as programming at camp. We've pared it down and we've divided and conquered based on Lori, Amy, and myself's strengths. So here you can see the programming department will have 5 staff. There will be someone who's responsible for evening programs, and that's what you think of as bunk night and village night and pup ACP. You have daily programs, which is like our regularly scheduled 4 periods, 5 periods of the day, hobbies, that type of thing. And signature programs, which are what we think of as color war and mass program and fight song. However, those things are all everything is going to get reimagined this year. Lori has this great example of, like, in a COVID world, can we even do fight song? Like, can we put 400 people in the OREC and have like 100 of them at a time, like yelling and spitting and doing, vocals? Probably not. So we have to reimagine all that stuff. And then underneath those 3 positions, you see 2 specialist positions, and those 2 the programming specialists are just going to run support for the whole department. Now, some of you may be thinking like, wow, it's really pared down. How are we going to do everything that we know and love? And the easy answer is, well, we're changing everything that we know and love. So why do we need all these people? And then the more difficult answer is that all of the 5 people working in programming will, at the root of their job, be supporting the rest of the staff in what they're trying to do for the summer. I don't expect that the person who is running evening programs is writing 36 bunk nights, twice a week or 3 times a week or whatever. What we do expect is that person that is focusing on evening programs is supporting those 36 bunk nights happening, liaisoning with the rest of camp and getting materials and making sure that space is available and providing creative support where creative support is needed. There's a little picture here. You might be like, why is there a table in the middle of this slide? So this is the programming office. It used to have pictures and shirts and like stuff all stapled all over the walls. The floor had these like nasty carpets in it. There were all these couches that people for decades had just been like sweating on during the course of the summer. So we decided that this was a good opportunity for us to clean that space out and to make it new. So what we did is we literally like took everything out. I spent a whole day in September just pulling staples out of the wall of that office, and there's a nice new floor. It's been painted, and JVH made this beautiful table, like conference table, that actually has outlets in the table so people can charge their phones and plug their computers in and stuff as they are planning. Now, this space is, we used to call it the programming office, and we probably will continue to call it the programming office just because changing vernacular is really hard at camp. But this space will be used for all sorts of different meetings throughout the year. When the Alumni Council comes to visit camp, this is a really great space for them. When donors come to visit camp, this is a really great space for them. When we're talking about some of these programs that we're going to be doing, this is a great space for that to happen. The projector is still up there on the ceiling, but we have this conference table now instead of a whole bunch of disgusting carpets and couches. I'm happy to talk more about programming offline later with anybody that's interested.
One other thing just to add, I also think it's a great space with the way that school is going right now for all of you, whether you're finishing up high school in college, you may have meetings that you need to attend, Zoom meetings or phone calls or continuing ed, anything like that. And this is a space where you'll be able to go as well. And so, you know, the walls are white, but we're going to create new memories there. And we felt that this was a really perfect time for us to be able to have a new beginning together and to rebuild these walls together in a way that reflects the moment in time that we're in and our ability to be able to do something new together. So Amy, oh, there's the next pretty picture. Amy, this is you.
Okay, so the next step would be people supporting the office and me in the operations and logistics. There's a coordinator and 2 assistants or specialists. These people do a lot of the jobs that normally happened in the office. We do the mail, laundry. In 2019, we moved a lot of water. But in addition to that, where I think in the past we just answered the phone, we do not sit and answer the phone anymore because we have it with us all the time. If you call camp, you call me, and we can support so many other departments of camp this way. So we can help with the health center, who will need help like coordinating kids if they have to go to the doctor or get medical supplies. Sometimes we have to do shopping. We also support the programming areas when they need to move stuff around or find supplies if we need to buy them. Something I think a little bit different is that we do all of the scheduling just because that's what I do. I do a lot of paperwork and scheduling, and these people will help because there's a lot of moving parts around camp. This picture is the beautiful new office. It got a paint job. You can't see, but it has like air conditioning back in that corner, new flooring, and it's just going to be like a beautiful space when people, the alumni committee and donors come down, we can greet them in this beautiful space instead of those really bright, scary yellow walls. But yeah, that's
one other thing on the office is that it has a new door in the front. It's a Dutch door, which is the kind of thing that like the bottom stays put and the top can open, which will help with traffic control in the office, especially during like the high traffic times like general swim and whatnot. So Amy's really excited about
the Dutch door. It's so cute.
The other thing I'll add, Amy, that I think we could add to this list is that because we have more sessions this summer at camp, there's a lot more prep that's going to need to happen for getting ready, getting the forms ready, and getting kids ready for the turnovers of sessions. And also for the support of COVID-19. So we're going to talk about what our health center looks like, but there's a lot of daily temperature checks and making sure that our equipment works for taking temperatures and hand sanitizer and health screens, and all of those things will probably end up going through a combination of the health center and the office. So I would add that as a really important part of the summer. Neil, back to you.
All right, so here are the program areas. The program area leaders are the first line there under me. I think the major change, or like the one major change that we've made here, is the performing arts program area leader. This person is going to oversee both like what we used to know as drama and what we used to know as like sing or music. We felt that those sort of meshed up together, and with the right person, it could be a really cool avenue for us to explore combining those two things. You'll notice under the waterfront program area leader, there's only 3 spots there. That doesn't mean there's only 3 waterfront specialist jobs, but those are how we are designating what those people are doing when they're down there. And one of our goals for the summer, in all transparency, is to have the waterfront staff not simply be boat drivers. We want the waterfront staff to be people that are really committed to the educational portion of the waterfront, actually teaching kids how to sail, actually teaching them how to ski and wakeboard and slalom and paddling. We have like all these amazing paddle boats. We have a whole set of new canoes that, well, they're new to us canoes. So these positions, we really want these people to be educators, and the boat driving is something that other people that work at camp can handle, and we can get into that more later. But for those positions, we're really looking for people that can do the teaching. And what I mean by do the teaching is, like, if you're a world-class water skier, that's great, but what we really want is a world-class water ski teacher. We want someone who can educate the masses, coordinate who's doing what down there, and not have to focus their time on driving a broken boat. For ropes, similarly, there's more than 2 positions here, but we just sort of designated what some of the different things they'll be doing with their time are. We have people that are set up for belaying all the time, and then people that are helping with some like team building and low ropes activities as well. The pool, again, similar to the waterfront, like being a lifeguard is great, but we're not just looking for a lifeguard to work at the pool. We are looking for lifeguards to work at the pool, but what we want are people that can do swim instruction, teach swim instruction to kids. It's like persistently one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get every summer from parents is like, how come my kid came home and they are not a better swimmer? And the answer is because they were playing like water baseball, or they were doing like dances on the pool deck, which are all like great things to happen, but we really want to sort of pivot and focus back towards swim instruction. A and C, similarly, we have a ceramics. I think ceramics is just going to be one person there, but we have all that great ceramics equipment that we want to utilize. And the beautiful thing with ceramics is that we can set it up in a way where social distancing can be in place, and we can have a lot of people doing that safely at the same time. Judaica, the Judaica person will be responsible for Judaica periods, as well as coordinating with the Performing Arts PAL for what services and Shabbat looks like. There are going to be 2 Shabbat services, or there's like 2 Friday through Saturday night, each 2-week session. There's 2 of those. So how we break down who is leading those services, we don't know yet, but that will largely fall on the Judaica PAL and the Performing Arts PAL. Israeli culture PAL, that's very similar to what we've seen in the past, and we're really going to lean on the person who is our Israeli culture program area leader to teach about Israeli culture in the ways that speak to them, whether that's through dance or language or food or geography or music or whatever it is. We have a lot of resources there. Camp has a lot of resources there to help out, but I don't want to for us, we're not expecting a geography lesson if the person leading Israeli culture is a dancer, right? So that'll come down to who that person is and where their strengths are. And then athletics, as you know, athletics to run.
Neil, before we leave this slide, I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about our decision regarding international staff, and that leads into a question that I know will come up about bunk counselors versus activity counselors, and our hope to grow our staff.
Yeah,
in
so
their learning?
sure. So we made the really tough call a couple of weeks ago to forego the J1 visa, which means we're not going to be hiring international staff to work at camp for the 3 months of the summer. If there are international people or people from foreign countries that live in America and have their own work permits or their own ability to work in the United States, then that's a different conversation. But we're not doing the J1 visa thing. We got into a tight space before camp was canceled in 2020 with how do we fill these like 20 positions or 30 positions when all the J1 visas were canceled. So we decided to forgo that J1 visa thing. Now, you're looking at this maybe thinking, well, there's no athletic specialist and there's no Judaica specialist, and how are we going to have enough people to run all these areas? And our goal is that all of the counselors in camp will have the opportunity to work in a program area, to be certified and trained in certain program areas to help out during the day, during the periods. Now, it sort of depends on what our restrictions are for COVID, how we do the scheduling for camp, whether that's bunks going around together to activities, or if the kids are free to follow more of like a hobby model and go to like an individual schedule each day. Hopefully we can learn more about that very soon, but our hope is that during the regular periods of the day that the campers are able to participate in the activities that the campers want to participate in, and the staff are able to support program areas as needed. So if I'm a counselor, I may be belay certified, and I may get some training in instructing paddle sports, and I may also be archery certified. And each period of the day, I may go to a different area and help as what you would think of as an activity counselor. There's a lot of camps. Most camps in the country don't have this bunk counselor thing that CSL has had for many years. And part of that is the geography of the camp, the makeup of the camp, the map, where things are located, and where the kids like wandering through the woods alone is not really a thing. But we're hoping that with our COVID restrictions in place for next year, we'll be able to follow a model where the staff are able to help out in program areas and program areas that interest them, and campers are able to participate in the activities that they want to participate in. With fewer days in the session, it's less time for campers to get around and do everything. So we'd like the campers to be able to focus in on those areas that really speak to them.
Thanks, Neil. That was great. So our media specialists, our media group is going to report directly to me, and I'm really excited to be able to partner with the team. So we have a media coordinator and then 2 media specialists, and these numbers are accurate. We'll have 1 media coordinator, 1 video specialist, and 1 photo specialist. I think the hope is that our specialists each can do a little bit of both, but to be able to each have their own expertise. I think we do the most phenomenal job on telling our story of camp through photography and videography and social media. I'm really excited this summer to add to that and to start working on how we tell the story of camp to people who don't already come to camp. So starting to think about how we sell and tell our story to prospective families is something that I'm really excited for us to be able to work on this summer. So how do we show a tour through our cabins so that before first-time parents sign their kids up, they know what cabins look like, and they get to hear from our waterfront pal about what the curriculum is during the summer. So I'm hoping that we can add that into the hype videos that we do and the amazing daily photos that we get. While I haven't been at camp in a really long time, I can look at any of those photos and get goosebumps and have a big smile on my face. And so we're going to continue that and hopefully add some additional new things onto the to-do list. Amy, do you want to talk about the health care?
Sure. So something that is a little different is that we're having more healthcare specialists or people, they have like different titles. We're going to have a nurse practitioner, and I think it's 2 registered nurses, and then to help support them with behavioral needs, or also COVID, because COVID's like a thing and it's going to be here for a while, that they're going to need help with, I guess, distinguishing between like boo-boos and band-aids and COVID needs, and if we have to quarantine. And so these extra specialists will help them with that, with a nursing assistant. And then we're also hoping for a behavioral specialist, which will have like a bachelor's degree in social work, psychology, and be able to help with more of that area as well. What else?
That's great. I think I would like to add on that as a part of this team, although it's not listed here because we're not hiring, we have formed a really phenomenal partnership with Jewish Family Services and their counseling department.
Oh,
And so their counselor will be coming out to camp throughout the summer to be able to help us with really challenging, really challenging camper needs, or even for our staff, if you're feeling like you need someone to talk to, that we have an additional person there. So this summer, it was really important for us to add on to our healthcare team to make sure that we're staffed appropriately, so that when we have a one space in camp where everybody goes to get assessed, and you go left if you are boo-boos and band-aids, and you go right if you need to be tested for COVID, that we're able to take care of that. As you guys know, our nurses are so busy morning to night, and that was without COVID. And so part of what we really need to work on is thinking about all the things that we can do to help support them get their job done with the addition of COVID. And that's where we were talking earlier about, the operations team, what they can take on in terms of things like just taking temperatures and health assessments. Those are things that might not necessarily need to go through our medical center. Okay, Neil, do you want to play the role of Josh Van Horn?
I sure do.
And look what's on the screen, his new tractor.
I was just gonna sit here and stare for like 30 seconds, which I think is what JVH would actually do. But yeah, so as I mentioned before, with the J1 visa thing and the international staff, and with like the retirement of the old maintenance guard, Bill, Don, Tom, and other one-syllable named people, we have 4 maintenance positions this summer. 2 of them are going to focus on like the housekeeping aspect, which is like, refilling paper and garbage and general cleanliness of camp, which is really important this year, given all the COVID implications. And the other 2 positions will be focused on helping Josh with whatever like big projects are happening around camp, when vehicles inevitably get flat tires or break down, mowing the lawn, doing other projects with this great tractor here. It allows us to do a lot more stuff in-house together. And these staff, or some form of these staff, will be working with Josh starting in the spring and through the fall to open camp, to run it for the summer, and then to close it in the fall.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
This is you again, my friend.
So the kitchen.
Oh, this is me. I'm sorry. This is me.
Yeah, but I can talk about it if you want,
Go for
Lori.
it. Go. Great. That's
Okay,
awesome.
so the food service in a COVID world is very complicated, as you all know. There's just, every time we think we solve one problem, like 100 new problems open up, and becomes very challenging. Again, with the J1 visa thing, historically, the kitchen staff have been international staff from Europe or from Central America or South America, and we're just not going to have those staff available this summer. So we're going to be hiring domestically for our kitchen staff. We're working with Wolf Foods, again, they've done our food service for a number of years. Michael Wolf, who owns the company, is an alum of Camp Seneca Lake, and is very passionate about providing food in in a safe and healthy way, COVID aside. So there's going to be one person who is overseeing the kitchen. That will most likely be a direct hire with Mike Wolf, someone that he knows. Also the chef and the baker, those three positions typically are people that Mike knows and works to help us hire directly. And then for the other kitchen staff, I think there's 8 other positions, and that's everything that you think of when you think of kitchen staff, like dishes and salad bar, if we do that sort of thing, like a salad, like a fresh produce, fruits and veggies person. I don't know if there's going to be a salad bar or not. And then other serving and prep work as we know it. Now, this is going to be a tough place for us to hire staff because nobody gets excited about working in the kitchen all summer long, but these positions will be paid handsomely for the summer, and are probably the most vital portion of our staff, truth be told. Now, the way the food service is going to work in the summer, we're still working through. Our capacity in the dining hall is limited. The way that the kitchen has to go about preparing food has changed because of COVID. So what food service actually looks like, whether it's family style or buffet or like Chipotle style, we don't know exactly yet, but those are things that will become more clear in the coming months as we learn more about what's happening.
Thanks, Neil. I just wanted to jump in also to add that, we really want to destigmatize working in the kitchen and share with you that if you have an interest in restaurant management, hospitality, anything in those arenas, that we would encourage you to think about applying for a job in the kitchen. We recognize that it's indoors and it's hot and it's not as glamorous as some of our other jobs. But if these are things that you're thinking about that are interest to you, this is a really great opportunity for you to get hands-on experience and to help build your resume, as well as to be able to be paid well for the summer. So if you want to talk as we go through this process, if you've got specific questions about that experience, we can have separate conversations if that's something that you're interested in.
I have another thing to jump in on, Lori, and that is that everybody, regardless of their job at Camp Seneca Lake in 2021, will be helping in the dining hall and in the kitchen in some form. We don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but there may be, who knows, there may be a day when when Mohawk staff are on dishes or something like that. Still some things that we're working through and what exactly that looks like, but every single person, regardless of their job, will be helping in the kitchen at some point.
And I think that goes along, Neil, with cleaning, right? We're all going to be in charge of keeping camp disinfected and cleaned. And so there are things that I think in the past we've easily taken for granted that haven't been part of our responsibility. And we're going to have to do those things this summer, but we're going to have fun while we do it. So on to babysitters. So not every summer we have babysitters at camp. It depends on who our leadership team is. And those two cute kids are my kids. Avery will be 6 in a couple of weeks and Jonah will be 5 in January. And they will be at camp this summer with me. And so we are looking to hire 2 babysitters. And this is open to anyone to apply to help take care of Avery and Jonah. They are super fun, enthusiastic, wild and full of energy, and just want to be able to play and have fun, but also require a fair amount of relaxation time in being able to chill. And so there's this fine line between having them out and being able to run around camp, and also just being on Retirement Hill and letting them be small little humans. So they every day ask when we're going back to camp. When they see Neil and Amy and Adam and Bradley at the JCC, they ask them why they're not at camp, because they get very confused that they're real people with real jobs. And if you're at the JCC and in Rochester, stop by and you can meet them. They're always with me in the office. But again, we're looking for 2 people so that two people enjoy each other's company much more than one. And we think it's easier for 2 people to take care of them together, not because they're difficult, but just because it's more fun to have 2 people together.
Lori, I'm going to jump in and also
Yeah.
say that having 2 people allows for rotation, which will afford the babysitters an opportunity to participate in like the regular camp stuff that we all know and love as well.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. So Neil, I have to go grab my charger because of course my laptop is dying. So I'm going to put this slide on for you to talk while I just go get my charger.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the application process, I think, in the next couple of slides here. We're going to open the staff applications on Friday, November 13th, which is a week from tomorrow. And you're going to be able to access that through the Camp Seneca Lake website. It's going to redirect you to the JCC website where you're going to find the application and you're going to fill it out online. And then it's going to get sent to Lori, Amy, and myself for review. One thing that's absolutely critical, which is a little bit of a departure from the past few years, is that in order to be a staff member at Camp Seneca Lake, babysitter, a waterfront specialist, a unit head, you must fill out the application. There is no way around filling out the application and just like talking to one of the 3 of us. Of course, we'll talk to you, but filling out the application is the official, that's like your official way of saying that you're interested in applying for a job at camp. Informal conversations are great, but no one will be getting a job offer off of an informal conversation. Everybody has to fill out the job application. Great, Lori, I think we can move on to the next slide here.
Awesome.
So,
thank you guys. Go ahead.
Is this one me or you? I don't remember.
We can do it. We can all do it together. I'll kick it off. So Neil and Amy and I are really excited to be able to partner with the Department of Human Resources at the JCC as we start the application process. And we want to walk you through what the process looks like. For some of you who have applied for jobs in the past, there are things in here that might look different. And so we want to really be transparent and clear with you so that you know what to expect. So when you submit your application online, that we receive that and we review that. And then everything after that is a you may. So it's really one of the things that I think is really hard and why we want to create this young alumni network is that there is no guarantee that everyone gets a job. We want everyone to have the opportunity to be able to work at camp, and we want to foster and create and grow really wonderful leaders. We want you to know that we're here to work with you, but positions that you may apply for might not be right for you at this moment in time. And those are things that we can work on for things that you might be able to do during the year to be able to work towards a position. So after your application is received, you may get contacted to conduct an interview. And if you didn't get to attend Alan Friedman's session and you're interested in hearing it, we're going to get it on. Got to figure out if we can put a password protected way for there to be videos just for the staff on the website, but we did record that session. And if you're interested in hearing about Alan talk about resumes and interview skills, send me an email or send me a message in the chat and I can send it out to you. After you have an interview, if we are interested in moving forward, we will ask you for references and we will check your references. And after that, if your references check out, then you will receive an offer letter, which will include your position, your total pay, and your start and end date. And we put that in there in particular because depending on your position, you may be required to come to training earlier or come later in staff orientation. After you receive that letter, you're going to review it, you're going to sign it and get it back to us. Neil, you want to do this page?
Yeah. So after all of those things that Lori just described happen, there's a bunch of things that need to take place before you can actually start your employment at 200 Camp Road. The first is going to be an onboarding portal, which you'll fill out forms and upload them, and there will be some like JCC stuff like the employee manual and some other things that you have to like read through and check off and digitally sign that you did them. The background check is something that we'll send you a link for, and you'll just have to type in a little bit of information. The handbook is on there. There's going to be a harassment training. I'm not sure if that'll be virtual or in person yet, but it doesn't matter at this point which one it is. And then your medical forms. This is, again, critical. For many years, staff weren't required to provide camp with their medical forms, but this is something to make sure that everyone is safe and healthy throughout the course of the summer, especially in the event of an emergency. We need some information about who to get in touch with and what medicines you can't take and that type of thing. And working papers, if you're under the age of 18, you need to get working papers from your high school, I believe. And in order to work at camp, you have to have those working papers as well. And this last one, you have to, when you come to work at camp, when you show up at 200 Camp Road for the first time for the summer, you have to have your social security card and your birth certificate or your passport. There's a form called an I-9 that has to be filled out in person, and we have to verify in person the legality of certain documents. And if you show up at camp and you don't have the correct documents to accommodate the I-9 form, then we will have to send you away from camp, but you won't be allowed to be at camp without that stuff. So if you come from like California or something and you show up at camp and you're like, oh, forgot my social security card, we're going to say sorry and we're going to like drop you off at the top of Camp Road, and you're going to be on your own until you can produce that. It's not going to be that serious, but we will not be able to accommodate any staff members working at camp who cannot produce these documents. So start thinking now, have a conversation with whoever you need to have a conversation with about getting real copies of your social security card or real versions of your social security card, your birth certificate, whatever it may be. You can get up to 10 copies of your social security card for free from the United States government. So what our HR director recommended to us the other day was that we tell you all to start the process of getting a second one if you don't have a second one yet, or to get another copy and to like put it in an envelope and write CSL on it, just so that it's like there and you have it, and you don't have, and then your parents, your guardians, or whoever doesn't have to worry about this document coming to camp and then getting rained on or disappearing or damaged. We also have a few safes at camp that once these documents come to us, we can lock them away and keep them safe for you if that's if that's what your family wants. I think that's it for this one.
Great. So we have made it to the end, to the Q&A. I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen so that I can see all of you. And we are going to open this up for conversation, for us to be able to talk, for you to share your thoughts, ask questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself or throw it into the chat box.
Is there going to be any sort of GSO in person, I mean?
Yes. So the plan is the general staff orientation. We put the dates up before on the screen, and the dates for GSO as it stands right now are Sunday, June 20th. It'll start on the 20th, and it'll take us right into camp starting session 1 on Monday, June 28th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another thing, Lori, that we didn't talk about, but that we are planning for people that have accepted job offers to work at CSL in 2021 is that there will be some virtual trainings and some virtual trainings taking place throughout the spring. And those will be with different combinations of people. Perhaps the Mohawk staff will all get together and do a training with your unit head, or all the unit heads will get together and do a training over Zoom, similarly to how many of you are going to school right now. But that's something to just keep on your radar as you consider applying to work at camp is that we may ask you to participate in some pre-season training over Zoom. Great question, Ben. The difference between an assistant counselor and a counselor. The assistant counselors, by and large, will be first-time staff members at CSL, and our expectations of the assistant counselor are going to be a little bit different from that of a counselor, in that the assistant counselor is going to be still learning and training, whereas the counselor is someone who has some more experience in childcare or camper care or working at camp. The assistant counselor will be able to do all the things that the counselor are able to do, with the understanding that an assistant counselor may have never worked at camp before, may never have had a job before, and then a counselor will have had some more experience. Hopefully that answers your question, Ben.
So for those of us who were CITs the last time we were at camp, would we be considered assistant counselors or counselors?
Siona, great question. You are able to apply for any job that you would wish to apply for, and you will be offered any job that we deem you qualified to do. So if you want to take it upon yourself to apply for a counselor job, and let's say, just as an example, Neil applies to be a counselor, and Lori says, Neil, I think would make a good staff member at CSL, but he's not ready to be a full counselor yet. We want him to be an assistant counselor. So we're going to offer him an assistant counselor position. And that will come with, like I said, a varied expectation on what those staff members are capable of, and what they're going to be able to do, at least early on in the summer. That will hopefully change by the end of the summer. Hopefully all of the assistant counselors are in a position where they can be counselors. But like I said, no one's worked at camp in 2 years, and many people will have not worked at camp ever. So we wanted to sort of divide up what those two positions look like, so that there's less confusion over what the expectations are for everybody.
I'm not exactly sure how the nights are going to work, but if checking in is still a thing, will assistant counselors be able to check in, or will it just be counselors?
Yeah, assistant counselors will be able to check in. Assistant counselors will be paid staff, just like counselors, just like programming specialists, just like babysitters. The responsibilities will be very similar in terms of like evening duty and running programs and facilitating program areas and all that stuff. It'll be very similar, but someone who is an assistant counselor, it is understood that they are less experienced, and that's why they are an assistant. And it's assistant counselor, not assistant to the counselor. So it's not like polishing the counselor's shoes and like braiding their hair and stuff. It's a very similar job, just with slightly different expectations from the unit head and from the directors. Are kids that were going to CITs last year only eligible to be assistant counselors? Great question, Leo. Like I said before, anybody can apply for any job at camp. And if you're qualified, then you'll get if you're qualified for a job outside of one that you think you might be, then you might get a job offer for that. And if you're not, you may not get a job offer for something that maybe we're looking for some more experience. When you apply for a job, when you open up the job descriptions and the staff application, you'll see that some of the positions are 21 years old and older preferred. Some of them are 18 years old and older preferred. So that's just something to like keep track of as you're looking. It gives you a sense of kind of the type of person that we're looking for to fill a certain role. But Leo, you can apply to be the Tuscarora unit head if you like. I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's nothing that says you can't apply for that job.
And I'll add on that if you're a first year if you're a junior counselor age and you don't get a job, and this goes for everyone, and you don't get a job that you wanted and you accept another job, then part of your professional development plan Part of your growth plan for the summer can be asking to have some experience in a particular area. And we would be more than happy to be able to work with you and within our schedule and cohorts and all the things that we're not sure about yet, to be able to empower you to get those skills. I think that we're in this really unique situation because we made this difficult decision to not have international staff, that now more than ever, we really want to empower all of you to continue to learn and grow at camp, and to be the future leaders of camp. Chase, you had your hand in virtual land patiently waiting. So it's your turn.
Thank you, Lori. I was just wondering which of the three of you, Neil or Amy, or conglomerate of the three is handling hiring, and following up with that is, are the unit heads going to be involved in the hiring process this off season? Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
It's a great question. So I'll answer some and then I'm going to pass it off. We work really well as a triad. We bounce everything off of each other. There isn't much that one of us does that we don't run it by each other. So first and foremost, we're a team, and we have been and are going to continue to lean on each other. Neil is going to be doing majority of the job application and interview process. I have asked to be able to sit in on unit head and leadership positions at camp. And for anyone that Neil feels like he might want a second opinion, Amy is going to be a part of the operations team. And so I think in some capacity, while Neil is spearheading it, that we will each have some sort of involvement in the areas that we're overseeing, but Neil is the guy in charge. So that answers that question. And then you had a second part, and now I'm blanking, and I'm so sorry.
The second part I can answer.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Was about like other CSL staff members being involved in the
yes.
hiring process, like unit heads and counselors and stuff. And I'll respond, Chase, by saying that the application process is a very delicate process, and there's a lot of guidelines with the Department of Labor and with the JCC and with HR, or Human Resources. So are unit heads going to be involved in the hiring process? I can't really speak to, other than that the only people that are allowed to, by law, the only people that are allowed to conduct interviews are people that are currently employed by the organization. So unit heads probably won't be involved in the direct hiring process because they're not going to be employed yet. But hiring at CSL doesn't happen in a vacuum, and there will be sort of informal conversations about the process as it unfolds. There's a couple questions here on the side. Have the requirements or age guidelines changed for positions at all from last year, or are they roughly the same? And I'll say I wasn't here last year, so I'm not entirely certain. And I'm sorry I don't have a great answer for you. I think mostly things are very similar in terms of the requirements for age and certifications and that type of thing. If you're going to work at the pool or at the waterfront, you're going to have to be a lifeguard. That's for certain. If you're going to work at the ropes course, you're going to have to be certified in like belaying and team building and low ropes, stuff like that. But I would encourage you to read through the job descriptions once they're posted and the application goes live, because that'll have a lot of really good information. So thank you for that question.
I'm going to jump. Can I jump in and answer the next one, Neil, if that's okay? So the question about the whole summer and working part of the summer. So we recognize that most of you have no idea what your school is going to require of you in the fall. And that leaves us all in a super unknown place. And transparency is my number one thing. And I want us to be able to be flexible with each other. So we obviously need to make sure that if someone were to have a leadership position, we would really need them to be at camp for the full summer or for as most of the summer as possible. But we want to be able to work with you. So if you are interested in coming to camp and can't be there for the full time, I would ask that you are transparent on your application, and talk with Neil about it right from the start. That doesn't mean that you can't come to camp. We just need to work through the logistics and talk about it with you. other questions?
I have another comment, Lori. I forgot to say it earlier, but when, for many of you, this will be like your first official job application process. And one thing that our HR department has made very clear to us are some of the regulations from the Department of Labor in terms of this process. And what that means for you all is that once you apply for a job at Camp Seneca Lake, it is you who is applying for the job at Camp Seneca Lake. It is not your mother or your father or your guardian or your cousin or your aunt and your uncle who's applying for a job at Camp Seneca Lake. And we are not allowed to discuss your application or your employment status with anybody other than you. So let's use the example that Neil applies for a job. Lori decides Neil's not qualified. Unfortunately, Neil doesn't get a job offer. And then Neil turns around to his parents and says, I didn't get the job. Can you make a phone call for me and maybe push some things along and get me through? And that's something that we can't prevent you from asking your family and friends to do for you, but we are not allowed, Lori, myself and Amy are not allowed to discuss anybody's application or employment status with anybody other than that individual. So just something to keep in mind.
I am so surprised that no one has asked about going out at night and about all of that. And first and foremost, kudos to you guys that you've been so interested in camp and that you haven't asked, but I'm going to talk about it because I know it has to be on some of your minds. So this past summer, initially, when we started creating this concept of the CSL getaways, in the initial model, our thoughts were nobody can go off camp, no staff can go off camp, no families can go off camp. Once you're in, you're in. And last summer, the numbers for COVID were really low in Yates County. And so we felt comfortable that our families and our staff could come and go as though it was a normal family camp, and for the staff, normal. During a period off during the middle of the day, you could go get ice cream and you could go out into town at night. We recognize that being at camp, working and living at camp is really exhausting, and having that time to disconnect and get away and feel like a human is super important. So we don't obviously know the answers yet. First and foremost, it's going to be up to what the Department of Health says, and then what the guidance that we get from the American Camping Association, and then what we decide to do as a family, as a camp family. But know that we are mindful and thinking already about if we aren't able to go out, or if we have to reduce the amount that we go out, we recognize that we're going to need to do some things around camp to make you more comfortable. You're going to need to eat more. You're not going to be able to just have a small snack. You're going to need an OD snack every single night all summer long. So that's already in the schedule. Wolf Foods already knows that just in case, they're planning to feed all of you every single night. I hope for all of us that that isn't the case and that we can go out, but we recognize and we're going to start planning for if we can't get out, how do we hang out? How do we chill? How do we disconnect? How do we get ourselves feeling good without leaving camp? And so stay tuned. But I can already tell based on the way that the conversation has gone tonight and your questions, that your hearts are so in the right place. And so thank you in advance for your patience and understanding as we wait anxiously and patiently to learn the regulations.
Kind of going off of that, how would days off look?
Such a great question, Hannah. Such a great question. So I think that goes right with what we just said, which is our hope is that we can have days off. Depending on what's required of testing and all of those different things that we just don't know yet, it may have to look different. The good news is that the way that our schedules are set up with the 2 weeks sessions and then this 36 hours in between, we're hoping that everybody automatically has time off. Well, most people will have time off automatically during then. We recognize the importance of having time off. we legally know that you need to have time off. And so we're going to make sure that we figure it out. We just don't know what it looks like yet. Neil and Amy and I are always on calls with the American Camping Association, the Jewish Community Center Association, and then with our overnight camp director partners in crime and other camps that we're talking to. And so we're brainstorming what camps did that ran overnight camps across the country last year and trying to figure out what the plans are. We will have more calls as we start to understand what the rules are and to be able to work with you. I just want to answer this. A question came in privately, but it's a great question. The assistant counselors will live in the cabins with kids. If you are a specialist, you may also be in a cabin. We just don't know what our living situation is going to be yet. As we described to you earlier, because we can't use because right now we are under the assumption that we can't use platform tents for more than one person, we may need to have more people living in cabins. That also could mean that there's a possibility that you could say, I'm comfortable with sleeping in a platform tent by myself. Some of you might be like, there is no way I'm sleeping in a platform tent by myself. Not happening. So that is something for us to continue working on, and we promise to be transparent with you on. Neil, do you want to talk about when applications are due and kind of your philosophy on getting applications and interviewing and the rolling process?
Yeah, so applications, job offers, all of that will be a rolling process, meaning there is no deadline to apply. The deadline would be after we have filled all the positions. Essentially, once positions are filled, we will take them off of the website and you will no longer be able to apply for them. But until we're able to make those decisions and complete all the paperwork and stuff, you'll be able to apply for whatever jobs are listed online. We're not going to be giving out job offers on Saturday the 14th. There will be some time. So if you don't get around to applying to work at camp on Friday night, November 13th, when the application goes live, no sweat. We haven't talked about this yet, Lori, but I imagine we won't even be able to start scheduling interviews for a week or two after we get applications to review anyway. So it's not like if you miss out on applying for a job on the 13th, you're going to miss out on a job entirely. The first couple of weeks, it'll be sort of slow moving on our end to get things up and running and to get interviews scheduled and that type of stuff. So there is no deadline. The deadline is when the jobs are filled, but we won't start filling jobs. I can't imagine a job offer going out before like early December or the very end of November. We got Thanksgiving in there, and Giving Tuesday is on December 1st, another plug for it. There's a lot of stuff happening at the end of November. So, take your time, be thoughtful on filling out the application, be thoughtful on preparing your resume, who your references are going to be, and preparing for the interview, be thoughtful in all that stuff and take your time and get it in. But I think from my standpoint, like if you really want to work at camp, you're going to have your application in before the end of the year, certainly before the end of December. But don't feel like if you don't get it in on that first weekend, you're going to miss out.
And I'll just add that I think this is a job, right? You're applying for a job. And while it's applying for a job at camp, which is a place that is a second home to you, it's still applying for a job. And so as Neil beautifully stated before, that, we can't talk with parents and that there is a different level of seriousness to this. If you want that job, prioritize it and fill out the application. There isn't an opportunity for you to say, but I really wanted to apply. And so, can you now reconsider me in the application pool? So we have a lot of work to do. This is not the only thing Neil is working on. And so we do want you to be thoughtful, but we also want you to recognize that in the world of applying for jobs, if you want something, you've got to work on getting your application together and getting it out. Great question about whether interviews will be conducted via Zoom. Neil, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like based on geography and the pandemic, Zoom is probably going to be the best option for us. I guess in theory, we could like meet in a park and stand quite a ways away from each other and have a conversation about camp. But yeah, I think mostly Zoom is going to be the way we do it, especially because everybody is so versed and familiar with using Zoom these days anyway.
And another plug for Alan's, going back and watching what Alan talked about, but he did talk briefly in his session about preparing for a Zoom interview and what you can do to best set yourself up for success when you're interviewing for a job over Zoom. So again, highly suggest you watching that. Any other questions? Awesome. So we recorded this session. We will make sure that it gets uploaded. We will email it out to you guys. We so appreciate you spending time with us tonight. We're so proud to have you a part of our alumni network and look forward to hopefully being in touch with you, with all of you soon. And if you're local and you're available, Amy, Neil, and I will be at CSL on Sunday from 12 to 4. I know that's terrible time because of football, but some of us don't care. And so we're going to be at camp from 12 to 4. Come hang out with us. All right, guys, Lila Tov, we'll see you soon.